Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Community Conversations and from Community Social Justice Atlanta. Y'all know who I am. I'm DeShannon. I'm your host tonight. Thank you so much for rocking with us through the pandemic, but we're back. We're back because we could not let another moment go by without giving you information that you can use. You know what we're about. If it affects you in your community, we want to talk about it. Whether it's health issues, school related, things that's happening to us personally in our lives, financial literacy, education, jobs, creating wealth. We want to give you information that you can talk about with your family and friends, and it's things that we vetted our guests. We're not just giving you just some foolishness. We want you to be informed. We want you to trust us to give you the information. Now, you know what time of year it is. It is time to get out and vote. I know some of you think, oh, we talk about this all the time, and we're going to keep talking about it every time because we want you to be informed. We want you to know some of the little sneaky stuff that's happening, but we want you to be able to make a decision based on facts and not just feelings. So, community social justice, we're going to be bringing you things. We're not on as often as we used to be, but that's going to change. We got some really good things that's coming up for listen out for that. So, tonight, we're going to be talking about your vote matters. Go ahead, tag somebody, share this because the election coming up in Georgia is one that we cannot sit back and just see whatever happens. So I want to bring on a guest that is going to be crucial to this. She's going to give you some information. She's not going to sugarcoat anything. And when I was talking to her backstage, I was like, ooh, wait, hold that thought because I want our audience to hear that. So without further ado, I want you to help me welcome to Community Social Justice, Miss Pat Pullar. Hey, Pat.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. I'm well. Listen, tell Community Social Justice who you are and what do you do?
My name is Pat Pullar, and I am on the Clayton County Board of Elections and Registration. I've been on there for a number of years. I was the Clayton County Chair of the Democratic Party. I was also the Deputy Director for the State Democratic Party. Years back, I worked for Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney as her District Director. I've been in the political arena for a lot of years. And I've been very passionate about it since I was 18 years old. And that's when they lowered the age from 21 to 18. And I decided that I was going to register and I was going to vote.
Okay, so now y'all see Miss Pat brought all her receipts. She's like, she is not playing games with us. She is well versed in this topic, and that's what we're talking about. So, Pat, let's just get into it. Does your vote matter?
It certainly does. I'll go back as recently as 2020, when Joe Biden, our president, we were waiting for the votes from my home county, Clayton County, and our votes didn't come in until like maybe 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning after election day, and people all around the country were calling Clayton County, and those 11,780 votes put Biden over the top. And that was from Georgia and that was from Clayton County.
Love it. So when
So
people
every vote
say,
does count. Every vote does count. It's important because people say, oh, my vote doesn't count. Yes, it does. Every
well, how can
legitimate
they
vote
be
will count.
sure that, because, we hear all of these things that, they're manipulating the vote or they're dead people are voting, or how do you ensure that it really is counted and it's counted correctly?
And you can go back and get a copy of your ballot. You can go back. You can go online. People can actually find out whether or not you voted. They can't see how you voted, but they can actually see. I can look up your name today and say, "Oh yeah, you voted." I can look up anyone's name and say, "Oh, they voted." And so that's important to say to people is that you can actually go back and see whether or not your vote is counted. And that's one I want to bring to you in terms of, if a person goes to the polls and they're told that they can't vote because they're not on the rolls, they're supposed to give you a provisional ballot. And then you have up to 3 days after the election, like that Tuesday of election day, you have up until that Friday to cure your ballot. So say, for instance, you forgot your driver's license or your ID. They'll give you a provisional ballot. That ballot will be counted once you bring in your ID and show that this, in fact, is you. So
Okay.
there's always and then they have a new law now where if you go to the wrong polling location before 5 o'clock, they're going to ask you to go to your correct polling location. So it's incumbent upon you to look up where you actually vote on election day. On early voting time period, you have an opportunity to go to multiple places to go vote throughout your county. Okay. And so that means that in Clayton County, we have 8 early voting locations. And then on the last week, which is coming up, we'll have 10. And DeKalb has numerous early voting locations. Fulton County has 100, I think, early voting locations, all from North to South Fulton to North Fulton. They have many early voting locations. All you have to do is look it up. And
Okay,
so we
so
want to make
let's
certain
talk
that
about that. How do I know that I'm registered to vote?
you go on my voter page, and all you have to do is Google my voter page. It comes up, and you'll put in your name and your county and your date of birth. And that will give you all the statistics about you. And it will also tell you what your election day polling location is. And that's different from the advanced and early voting locations. And I will tell you that a lot of people make a mistake when they don't go early voting on election day. They're running to the early voting location. That's not where you vote on election day. You vote at the assigned polling location. And you can find that on my voter page.
Okay, Lil, we're talking about your vote matters. We're talking about, is it counted? And you've given us, like, yeah, you can go actually check to see. You've told us how to see if we're registered. But we keep hearing about voter suppression. What is that? And why should we be aware of it?
Because the opposition is using every tactic that they possibly can, and starting with the legislation that they pass and that the governor signs, not allowing you to give out water to people that are online, don't give them any food, trying to close down locations in various counties around the state, going from many drop boxes that we had in 2020 to only having drop boxes, one drop box for every 100,000 voters. So when we had like 8 or 9 drop boxes in Clayton County, now we're down to 3.
Wow.
So and then they're also inside the building as opposed to outside the building. So you can't even go after 5 o'clock and drop your absentee ballot. You have to go during business hours when that governmental building is open. So that's what's called voter suppression,
So,
because
in
they
other
know,
words, it's anything that would hinder you from
yes,
casting your vote.
correct,
Okay.
making
So,
it difficult for you.
making it difficult. So, I know a while back, or maybe the last election or something, it was the ID was big, and making sure the name was spelled exactly like it was. And someone had brought up, because in our community we have unique spellings. We might have some apostrophes, or we might have something, a space or
Yes.
something. Are we finding that that's the same for this time around? If you have a unique spelled name, what should you do? Should you go on that my voter page to make sure that that matches your actual legal ID?
Yes, and then again, they're not going to challenge you to that point because you do have your ID, and it also depends on how you registered when you actually registered to vote. because it's incumbent upon you to make certain that your ID matches what you put on your voter registration, because that is the uh, actual document that they use to verify who you are.
Okay, so I remember hearing about voter purging. Is that
Yes.
still happening?
Yes, that's still happening. If you have not voted in the last two general elections, you go from active registered voter to inactive. And then after that, if you don't vote anymore, then you are subject to being purged. If you get in contact with the voter registration or the board of registrations in your county and tell them that, yes, in fact, I've moved, or or I didn't vote and I plan to vote, it's all about voting. I mean, other states don't purge, but our red states seem to think that the people that don't participate on a regular basis are people of color.
Mm.
And so that is another tactic of voter suppression, by purging your vote. So it's incumbent upon you to vote in every election,
Mm-hmm.
in every election.
Okay, let's talk about that, because some people tend to only vote for the president,
Right.
or I think when I talk to people, even my friends and colleagues, it's like they don't even know the people on the ballot. Like, who are these people running for the school board or what have you? So they tend not to pay as close attention to your local elections. What do you say to people like that?
Well, you have to understand too is that it costs money to actually get on TV or get in the radio or do any kind of media exposure on social media platforms. It costs money. And a lot of times these candidates, as great as they might be, cannot raise the dollars that people like Raphael Warnock or Stacey Abrams can raise. And that, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars. Now, for local races, of course, it does not cost millions and millions of dollars, but you still have to touch the voter. And so if you don't have money to send out a postcard, or you don't have money to do a text message or robocall or take, voicemail, any of that, it's hard to reach a voter. And so they have to the voter actually has to take it upon themselves to go find out who the person is that qualified for that position. Say they qualify for county commissioner. Well, that county commissioner will most likely have some social media platform, and they may also have a website. Do your homework, Don't go to the polling location blind and say eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But you just want to make certain that you understand what these people stand for. Because in Georgia, all you have to do is qualify, and qualifying just means that you're registering and you're paying a fee to get on the ballot. That's all they have to do.
Wow. I think that has been a concern, not really knowing what the positions are that they're voting on and how that may affect your family. So talk to us about how we should be voting. Now, in the Black community, we tend to vote one way or the other, just one way. We don't know the people, we just marking through. But
Wherever you align yourself, and wherever your ideology, your principles, your values, that's important to you. So see what candidate measures up to what you believe in. Okay, so it's about what you feel is important and what will actually impact you on a daily basis and impact your children and your children's children. Because today we are voting for 30 years out. Because whatever the Congress looks like this term will decide whether or not we can continue having health care. We'll decide whether or not seniors will be privy to their Social Security and Medicare when they start talking about tinkering with it and looking at it, and whether or not they're going to fund Social Security after the money runs out, after you've paid all of this money into a system. And now these people on the other side are deciding whether or not you're going to actually have it. So you want to make certain that all of those things align with your principles, how you value what you want to do in your own life. And you also want to be voting for your children and your children's children. It's not just about you, because the people that decide who's going to be on the Supreme Court, they're the ones that you're voting for or not voting for, and they can decide whether or not we're going to have women's reproductive rights. And they have. They can decide whether or not we get police reform. They can decide whether or not we continue to have Social Security and Medicaid. They can decide whether or not college tuition will be reimbursable to people up to $10,000, $20,000. You know, they can decide whether or not, anything that really impacts us on a daily basis, whether or not food stamps are going to be cut, whether or not we get affordable housing, whether we get education that makes sense. And that's on the local, state, and federal levels. So we have to make certain that those people that represent us really represent us the way we want them to represent us. And it doesn't stop at just voting. It also starts with you ensuring that you make them accountable.
Let's go there. Now, because I want to get back to voting, but talk about the accountability piece. Like they said they were going to do this, and we don't see anything happening. And I think that's where, when people are thinking that my vote may not matter, they go beyond the vote at this point.
I know everybody's busy. I'm busy. You're busy. But it also incumbent upon us that when you say that you're going to do something, I want you to do it. Mm-hmm. It's just like you tell your child, okay, go ahead and make your bed, and they don't do it. So that's the elected official as well. You have to make certain that you are staying aware of the things that they promised or said that they were going to do when they were campaigning, that actually is fulfilled once they become elected. And so that's you going to a county commission meeting or a school board meeting, okay, and making your voice heard and say, well, you said this and you have not done that. And you want them to be good stewards of your tax dollars. You don't want them to be wasteful. Mm-hmm. So you have to make them accountable. And that means, being that squeaky wheel. That means raising your voice to be heard. That means sending out an email to your elected officials and telling them what your thoughts are. Because if they don't hear from you, they're going to listen to those backroom deals. They're going to talk to people that really are the squeaky wheel. If you're not saying anything, they feel like you don't need anything. But these people that are coming to me and they're asking me about this, they're asking me about that, I'm going to deal with them because they're in my face and they're telling me what they want. So it's up to us.
Okay, I like that. Let's go back a little bit. You were saying that what we do today is going to affect generations from now.
Yes.
I wonder if that message really comes across with anyone, because you still have people that just don't vote at all. Like they may think that it's not going to affect them in any way. So what would you say to the person who just doesn't vote?
I mean, you're giving away your power. You have power in your vote. And that's why people are paying attention. Can you imagine? Have you noticed that a lot of the corporations now have decided, oh, Black Lives Matter, Black vote matters. No, so now I'm going to engage with Black folks. They weren't doing that 10 years ago. But because we were the squeaky wheel, we decided that we were going to say something about how much you have ignored our community and ignored the needs and the issues that we have. And it wasn't until Black Lives Matter and Black Voters Matter came about that they all of a sudden, oh yeah, they're one of the biggest consumers that we have. We can't afford for them not to come and buy our sneakers or engage with us or buy our products and all of that. So now they're hiring us. We see so many more Black folks on TV, in the movies, all of that. That's a result of us raising our voices. That's a result of our young people getting in these streets and saying enough. And so we have to do that by our vote. Every vote counts. Every vote counts. People have won elections on a local level, on a municipal level. I'll go down to the municipalities in Georgia. Most of the time, those elections, you might get a few hundred people that can decide who the mayor is. Well, the mayor is the one, and the mayor and the city council are the ones that appoint the police chief. So why wouldn't you want to be engaged with that vote on a municipal level? On the county level, the same thing. They appoint the police commissioner or the police captain or whatever you want to call them. They're the ones that decide that. They're the ones that appoint them. So why not be engaged and vote? When I tell young brothers, I say, look, Most of the time, judges are on a ballot.
Mm,
Wouldn't you rather get a fair-minded judge that can give you 10 years probation rather than 10 years in jail?
yeah.
I mean, you talk about Medicaid being expanded. We have in Georgia over 500,000 people that don't have health care. We have hospitals that are closing.
Hmm.
We just had one in Metro Atlanta, Atlanta Medical Center, closing. You know the impact that that's going to have on the hospitals that we have here in the and six, almost 10 hospitals have closed already under this governor that we have now. And that's also because people don't have health care. They can't pay the hospital bill. The hospitals throw their hands up and say, we can't afford to really underwrite the costs that we're losing. So we're going to close our doors. And people that have the wherewithal to have health care, that have the funds to pay insurance premiums, all of that, they don't care anything about you that don't have health care.
Right.
So you have to get people in that measure up to what your values are and what you feel are important to you. I know that in this election, there are more women going out to vote than ever before, more young people going out to vote. I'm so excited about the young people going out and voting and making their voices heard. I'm watching an NBA game and I'm seeing all throughout the NBA game, they have PSA, public service announcement, talking about the importance of voting. Never before. The NFL, all of that. They know that we listen and we watch sports games. We watch our basketball. We watch our football. We watch our baseball. So they are actually speaking to us in terms of making your vote count. Your vote matters.
Okay, I want to talk about, we've already talked about how to find out if you're registered. Do you still have time to do that?
You cannot register now unless you're registering for, if there is a runoff, which some folks are predicting that there may be a runoff for some of the top of the ballot races, like the U.S. Senate race or the governor's race, may be a runoff because it's so close. But we're not claiming, and we don't want to run off because that was another grueling thing that we had to do in 2021. We don't want to go through that again, because that's why it's important for everybody to go vote now. But if you are not registered to vote, you can still register to vote just in case there's a runoff. You'll be able to participate in that.
Okay. So I think, what happens when people have lost confidence in the voting system? Whether it's we heard that it's fraud, or we heard that whatever they heard, what would you say to regain somebody's confidence that they're, well, we know what happened with the last governor's race and everybody said it was stole, or whatever the local gossip talk is.
We just have to, that's one of the things, the reasons why we have to vote. It can't be close. It can't be where people will say, well, we need to do an audit. We need to count the votes over and over and over and over again. And that's what we did in 2020 and 2021 when we had the runoff over and over, and it still came out the same. So regardless of whether or not you have these conspiracy theories or people coming out and saying that people don't trust the system, they don't trust the machines, they don't trust that, the foreign governments are invading out, all of that, it could possibly be true. But once we have done these audits and these recounts, it has shown that only legitimate votes have been counted.
Okay. I like that. So you were talking about earlier, before we started, about things that are affecting you locally. I want to go back to that because I think that's one of the most important things, the impact that it would have on your day-to-day life, no matter who you're voting for. Talk to us about what we should be paying attention to. And I know you was talking about, well, the Supreme Court and whether we get more healthcare information, or expanded Medicaid, or whatever that is. But I want to just hammer that a little bit and stay right there on what this does to your day-to-day life. And I'm wondering if we're really aware of the impact one vote, just one vote, because I know there's been elections that's literally won by one vote.
Yeah.
And talk to us about just your day-to-day stuff. Like
Your
what are
day-to-day
people
stuff.
suffering with that we could change?
I mean, it's just a simple thing as as the cleanliness of your community,
Okay.
your street lights, whether or not you have a lot of accidents in a certain locality or a certain intersection. You know, those are your local things that can be done on the local level. Your county commissioners, your municipalities, like your city councils and your mayors and your school boards. Okay, those are the things that you want to pay attention to because those are the ones that impact you on a daily basis, more so than on a state and a federal level. Okay, but again, all of those put together makes whatever happens in your life happen. And so we want to be cognizant about those local races and making certain that we get the right county commissioners in, the right school board, and the right mayors and city councils, because those are important. And I will say that, you know, the mayors and the city council races are always on the odd year, and that's why a lot of people don't pay attention, because it's just the municipalities that are having the election. So in counties such as we have 7 different cities in the county of Clayton. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine Fulton that has so many more? But because there's low participation and
Mm-hmm.
some of the municipalities, sometimes we may not get in the right people. Sometimes people last in there for a lot of years that they should not be in there. We've
Mm-hmm.
had one city in Clayton County that had somebody in there since 1978 and he died in the seat. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And that's because people are not paying attention. They don't care about it. They don't think it impacts them. But your property taxes pay for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The sales taxes that you pay on in your locality matters, because that's what they use to do all kinds of services within where you live in your county. So you got to pay attention, because your sales tax, your property taxes, you're paying for that system to work for you. And
I
so when
want
people
to.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm
I'm sorry.
sorry. I want to talk about the other stuff that's on the ballot. Let's go to the ballot. Because I early voted because I don't want to be out there in the crazy crowd in November. So the process was pretty easy. I had a sheet of paper to fill out with some demographic information on there, and I handed it to the person. I had to present my driver's license, and then they gave me this ballot to, or they gave me a little card to go put into the machine. But after I chose all the people, there was this extra stuff on there. There was a lot of reading, and you just vote yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah, you
And
have to be careful about those amendments and
yeah,
those constitutional questions that
mm-hmm,
they ask, because most of the time they're not designed for us to participate in whatever they're trying to pass. Like they had something about farmers on there this time around, and should they be exempt from an ad valorem tax? And I'm saying, what is this really about? I know it's not about our black farmers, I'll tell you that, but it's not. But it's about actually giving them a leg up. Well, everybody needs a leg up.
mm-hmm,
So you have to really read and read between the lines when they put those questions on the ballot, especially in November, because in your primary questions, those are the various parties putting their questions on the ballot. But on the general election, that's the legislature and the governor and whoever's in charge putting those questions on the ballot. So you have to understand, what is this actually for? There was a question about whether or not an elected official should still be paid if they've been indicted and something like that. So that's just common sense. Okay. Yes or no, whatever you feel like, because it's your taxes is paying that person. So whether or not you want your taxes paid to somebody that's been indicted or convicted, that's on you. So it's
Well,
like
I think like some of the verbiage, like you were saying, people aren't very familiar with, and it looked like there was multiple things that you're voting for with one check, like,
right.
and so I could, you could hear like
And then for
people
those
kind of,
state questions, yeah, for those state questions, I would suggest that people actually go and talk to their state representative
mm,
or their state senator and talk to them about those questions and what does it actually mean for your life and your
mm-hmm.
family's life. And they can explain it to you because they're in the state legislature. I would say that.
Okay, because I think that's important. People may think that they're just voting for a person, and that's true for the most part. But there's always that big paragraph at the end
Right.
that wants you to say yes or no to those. And
Yeah,
reading those, because initially you kind of glance through, but I really took my time to read what they're asking me, and it was
absolutely.
interesting how it's written until
Hmm.
you read it again, and so you really want to make sure you're paying attention to how it's
Right.
worded.
Right.
Hmm.
And sometimes it makes you think that, oh, this doesn't sound bad, but it may be bad because you
Right.
really don't know the backstory or the underlying reason why it's actually even on the ballot. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it didn't say anything about me. Do you want everybody to stop paying their ad valorem tax for their cars? I didn't see that. I didn't see that on the ballot. So this is not about me. Okay. Is this going to make me pay less for my food because they don't have to pay taxes for their farming equipment? No. So what is it about? So in my mind, I have my opinion, but I'll keep my opinion to myself in terms of how I voted for that particular question.
Okay. So, okay, guys, we've been talking about your vote matters. And so Pat has really been very transparent and open with us about the truth is. So it doesn't matter what you've heard. She's letting us know that every single vote counts. She let us know in her county alone, in Clayton County, was making a huge difference on who we have as our president now. And so sometimes when we're in smaller counties, or maybe not, bigger ones, larger ones, they're not real sure how it makes a difference. But you just let us know that yes, every single vote counts. We talked a little bit about suppression, and you had talked about this hot thing about not giving water and things like that. And I also heard that, like, you can't even offer somebody, if it has value, then it
Right,
could be considered a bribe,
right,
no matter if it's a piece of bubble gum.
right.
If it has value, it can be considered a bribe. So, why do you think this? What is this about? Like, what is this really about? Or tell us what we can do to avoid some of the things while we're standing in line.
One of the things is bring a book if you think it's going to be a long line. Now, some of the counties I know in Metro have wait times on their website. Go look at the wait times first and decide where you're going to go. Which early voting location has the lowest wait time. Okay, so that those are tools that you can use so you don't waste your time being on, go at a certain time of the day when it's less people going. People are not going between 10 and 12. People are not going between 2 and 4. So you want to make certain that you go around those times. Don't wait until 5 o'clock and then think that you're going to get in line and get right in and get out, because a lot of people are thinking the same thing because they're coming out of work. And then on election day, also not during early voting, but on election day, the employer is supposed to give you 2 hours to go vote with
Mm,
pay. So make certain that you take advantage of that if you just could not possibly go during the 3 weeks of early voting. And most counties in the state have a mandatory Saturday, and then they have also included Sunday. So this is the last weekend of voting. After this weekend, next weekend, even though it's right before the election, we will not be voting next weekend. But this is the last weekend to actually take advantage of the Saturday and the Sunday voting.
so do you encourage early voting?
Oh, most definitely, because of the fact that if you had a problem, you still have time to cure that
Mm.
ballot. You still have time to fix it. You wait until Tuesday, election day, you may not have the time to go back and fix it. But that's why you have 3 weeks. When we started out, I think it was in 2004 with early voting, it was 45 days of early voting. Can you imagine? And then they found out that we came out in droves and we were getting ready to win elections. And then all of a sudden it was cut in half. 21 days. So we don't take advantage of those days that they have given us, the Saturdays, the Sundays, like souls to the polls. I mean, you can actually go with your church members after church because it's open until most of the Sunday voting is until 5 o'clock. Go and vote. Bring back your circle that you voted, put your name on it, put it on the wall in the church and say, okay, sister, she done voted. Sister Pat voted. Sister Tashanna voted. Where are you? Sister Eva, where'd you vote? So it's got to be, make it fun. Get your children involved. Take your children to go vote because we have to start indoctrinating them and teaching them at an early age, so they understand the importance of voting.
I remember my mom went with me my very first time to vote, and she was so proud that she went with her children. So I think bringing back the importance of that, I think it'll go a long way. Let's
Yeah.
talk quickly about what is poll watchers. We hear a lot about poll watchers. What is their function? And
Their
what are
function
some
is just to oversee, not oversee, but actually watch the vote being done, the process being done, and write down anything that they feel is untoward or something that just doesn't look right, and then report it back to whoever they are poll watching for. It could be a candidate, it could be a party. It could be a third party organization that they are poll watching. They just want to supposed to make certain that the process goes smoothly, that there's no glitches, that there's no fraud.
So they're not supposed to be interacting.
No, they cannot interfere with the election process at all. All that there is for their eyes to see. That's it.
Okay, because we hear about that, but wasn't really sure what their function
Yeah,
or
we've had
role
poll
is.
watchers for many years. Sometimes candidates would assign poll watchers for certain precincts, certain polling locations within their district that they're running for. But I used to tell candidates, I said, you'd be better off having that person knock on doors and getting that last minute vote out for you, as opposed to sitting in the polling location, seeing what you're going to see.
Okay. So, okay, we really covered a lot in a short amount of time, and I like that because some people be drawing out their answers, and I'd be like, Lord, we ain't got but a little bit of time. But you was like, no, ma'am, I'm finna give you what you need.
And I just
So,
want to give you one other thing. I heard just today, this young man, Joe Clark, I want to give him credit for it. He gave us all kinds of numbers of how we've been voting in Georgia. And so right now we have 1,255,000 people that had voted in 2022, as opposed to 849,000 in 2018. And so that means we have 406,000 more people voting in 2022. That should be encouraging.
yeah.
That should make you want to go out and be a part of that number. And part of that is 55% of that 1,255,000 are women. Okay. And then our Gen Z, the 18 to 29 voters, they are showing out. They are showing up and showing out. I'm so proud of them because they understand now. 2018, they didn't show up at all. Okay. And so, and our minorities, 43%, our minorities showing out. African Americans are turning out, but we need to turn out more. Okay. We cannot win elections. I'll just give you an example. We have 205, something like that, 207,000 registered voters in Clayton County. We're the fifth largest county in the state in terms of voting. Okay. Well, if we only have 50% of them, that's not enough to win an election. That's not enough. We would have had a different governor in 2018. had people that looked like me showed up.
Mm,
We stayed home. We can't afford to stay home. Our life is at stake. You have to vote for your life.
mm.
Vote for your children's life and your children's children because they're coming behind you. You have no reason to stay home just because you don't feel like it. But what about your child and your child's children when they come up? Because all of those policies that you didn't vote for in 2022 are going to impact them.
I love it. So, okay, we're going to wrap this up. I want you to really, really lean in and talk to us. We don't know who's going to see this video, when, but I want you to talk to us about voting, whatever's on your heart to say, that you're giving somebody the appeal. You're sounding the alarm. I love the passion in it, but just talk to us for a minute.
Well, I just want to close by saying that my life, I know, has been impacted by voting. I recall when I was coming up, my father, who was from Panama, voted in a way that I thought was, oh my God, how could you vote like that? You know, and that's when I decided that I had to get involved. So my father would have the wherewithal and the knowledge to vote the way he should be voting as a black man. And so it's incumbent upon us to show our children, our parents, our brothers and sisters, and our cousins what's important to us and to them. And we voting collectively as one because it's about our lives. It's about our future. It's about what we feel is important to us. And it's not just for today. It's for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 and 30 years beyond. So when we are voting, it's not just about today. It's about making certain that the people that are going to form policies and pass legislation, that is something that doesn't hurt us, something that makes our quality of life better. And that's what should matter.
Okay, listen, guys. We've been talking about your vote matters. If you don't realize it now, there's no other appeal that could go forth. So Pat has came and shared her heart, but you might have some questions for her. How can we get in contact with you? Just maybe we've got a question of something that you said and we need clarity on.
It's just that they can just email me at pat.pullar@gmail.com.
Okay, so we've given you information. We've told you to go to this voter page to see if you're registered and where to go and if you voted before. Man, we've had the expert. She had her number. She was ready. She knew her stuff. I ain't mad at none of it.
Thank you.
Because this is so critical. She even said, you're not just voting for you. That's selfish. You're voting for the people coming behind you that's not even of age to vote yet. That's how long it's going to be before they can make a change. So you need to get out and vote. Every vote counts. She even told us that the president was won because of her county. So it doesn't matter where you are in Georgia, what you think you know, the fact that you have an opportunity to cast your vote for what you believe in. That's important. So, Ms. Pat, I'm going to let you end it with your final thoughts. Final thoughts. Because I know you got something else good for us. We could just keep going.
I just, my granddaughter says, vote for me because I can't vote. And she's 10 and a half years old. And so that's important to me that I'm voting for my granddaughter who's 10 and a half years old and my grandson who's 8, that they actually will be privy to whatever I decide and how I vote will impact them. And that's who I'm voting for. So you do the same.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. She's voting for people other than herself. I think for my takeaway was understanding it's not just for me. Mm-hmm. I think that really hit home that the little people behind me who's not able to vote is counting on me to make it better for them. Mm-hmm. I like that. So, okay, guys, we're going to have Pat back because, for one, she's absolutely amazing.
Thank
She
you.
came with her receipts letting y'all know that she knew her stuff. I love that. I love that about community social justice because we vet out every guest that we have. We give you the best of the best so that you can be more informed. So join us again, like, subscribe, follow us. We're going to be bringing you more information as this election goes on, as things in the community affect you. We want to be able to bring them to you in a way that you can make an informed decision. But thank you so much, Pat, for
Thank you for
joining
having
us.
me.
Man, do not be a stranger to community social
I
justice.
won't. I won't. Thank
We're
you for
going to
having
have
me. Thank
you
you for
back.
doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. It's really important. Thank you so much.
No problem. Now, guys, again, share this with somebody. Don't just share it to your page. Let people know that their vote matters. And if they want to say, well, why? Show them this video because we're going to make a difference this time around. So, until next time, guys, it's been Community Social Justice. We'll see you later.